Okay, let's do this. We have many questions. I guess I'll try to keep my answers short. I'm very gratified to see that you guys had a bunch of questions. I love it. This is fun. These are questions that do not get asked of me by my girlfriend or by anybody in my real life because, quite frankly, they don't care. So the fact that you care to hear my opinion on things validates me in a way that you shall never know. My ego is not that fragile, but it is a nice thing to experience. So let's get to these puppies. Screaming Phoenix says, you just broke $1,000 on Patreon. When can we expect religion to be eradicated? Yes, I promised my Patreon supporters that if we got to $1,000 a month, I would go door to door and personally eradicate religion. It's on my to-do list. I'm just eating a blueberry muffin now and having some coffee, so that's going to juice me up energy-wise. And I'm going to start in southern Germany. So when Pew does its next poll of atheists, expect a new trend of atheism to be emanating from the southern German area. Pat Condell lineup. God, I'm about to do a whole video about the lineup because CJ Werleman just tweeted the lineup and said, if atheism is so great, why is everybody in this picture an asshole? Unbelievable. I will get to that guy. But Pat Condell, yeah, he's hovering in the top 15. You know, he's just outside of the lineup. I mean, the thing is, if Pat Condell is mostly known for YouTube, none of these guys are YouTubers. They're all authors and speakers and scientists, and I mean, Matt Dillahunty isn't even a YouTuber anymore. He's writing books and going out and going to conventions and all sorts of stuff. So, but I mean, the lineup is pretty good though. I added David Silverman and Douglas Murray and Matt Dillahunty. I got to cut it off at some point, don't I? Can't just continually grow the thing. Ah, by the way, Al Jazeera just reported that there was a suicide bombing in Chad, Boko Haram. So that happened. What are your thoughts on modern day feminism with 39 upvotes? Wow. Modern day feminism. I mean, I don't think there's any new ground to cover here. I mean, you guys have all seen the videos that these other channels do about feminism. I think the way I would talk about it is it gets back to language. I really think that as frustrating as that is, nobody's in agreement with what the word feminism means, or more importantly, connotates. So what you have is a bunch of people scrambling to get away from the word feminism because it's been poisoned by Anita Sarkeesian and Jenny McDermott and insufferable people like this. They've destroyed the word and any positive meaning it might have had. So, am I in favor of equal rights? Of course. What monster wouldn't be? But do I also see the annoying tendency of these people to play the role of victim, overhype stuff, make it all about them, complain about problems that are not even problems? I mean, that's my biggest concern is, what is their point? What laws do you want changed? You're allowed to do everything. Are you just bitching about the fact that you want to make as much money as men? Because that's on a job-to-job basis. You negotiate your salary better then. I mean, there really is very few issues from a legal standpoint that they're bitching about. It's more now just about general slurs against patriarchy and rape culture, which instantly is very divisive because it's just this umbrella criticism that they just want to maintain. It really feels like they enjoy the role of victim, to be oh, look at us, we're the oppressed ones here. Boo to the men. And it feels like, it's very strange, the whole thing about rape too. Who are they talking to? You see these protests and these demonstrations that feminists do, it's almost as if they're talking to some rapists. Like trying to convince rapists that rape is bad. Like, we're on the same side. Everybody's against rape. Rape is a crime. It's punishable. Report a rape. These people will be sent to jail. I mean, the punishment for rape is severe. You could kill a dog. You could behead a dog in front of a police officer, and you would get less time than a rape. I mean, there's a million things you could do that get less time than a rape. So, I mean, it's always referred to with murder. It's rape and murder. Rapists, murderers, I mean, they're in the same, like, I don't understand. We are on the same team. I would be considered a feminist. If you wanted to go point by point and say, do you agree on equal rights? Okay, yeah. Do you think that there's been a history where women didn't get equal rights? Yeah. Do you think women should have positions of power, have rights to be in the military, have, every possible right? Yes, I'm agreeing. Put it this way, I will call myself a feminist if you allow me to burn an effigy of Anita Sarkeesian behind me. Okay? So if I can create some sort of puppet of Anita Sarkeesian and have it burning on a stake behind me, then I will announce my feminism. That's the image that I will allow. I'll sign off on that. Because I am not on board with a huge percentage of what modern day first world feminists talk about. It is beyond obnoxious. It has no merit. It is totally shameful what they're trying to do. Trying to piggyback on an actual cause, which has come a long way. That's the other thing. To hear women in America, in Canada, bitch about slut shaming. And, oh, isn't it terrible that the girls in the magazines are all hot and young, and I'm not? Okay, then don't buy the magazine. Those magazines are being bought by women. And then a total whiff on all women's rights in the third world. If you want to be a feminist, go fly to Africa. Go fly to Afghanistan. And then talk about feminism. Don't tell me about Photoshop. If I hear the word Photoshop, I'm cringing. Next question. Serena Smith, to what degree do you think Cenk and his minions acknowledge your existence? I'm going to say none. 0. I would say that at some point they have been made aware of a video here or there because one of you guys sent it to them or tweeted it or commented or whatever. But I don't think they care. I think their egos are out of control and inflated, and at some point, if you're a public persona, and especially if you're on YouTube, you acknowledge that there's going to be a certain amount of negativity. So once you identify something as negative, this is not an ass-kissing session, you instantly just categorize, okay, that's one of the bad ones. Let's just forget that, moving on. Let alone, they're not going to watch a half-hour video where I rip into them. This is the internet, they got shit to do, they got praise to acquire. So I really don't think they care. I have a minor YouTube channel that gets very few views, big picture. So they basically just stonewall. They stonewall. They know they're getting called out. I'm sure at some level they might have watched something and been like, oh shit, that's a pretty good point. But they're not going to publicly acknowledge that. They're not going to engage with me. It doesn't serve their interests. Their interests are not, let's get to the truth. Let's really challenge our progressive ideas. No, it's not happening. When will you make a video with Sam Harris? With Sam Harris. Bernard asks that. Yeah, I think the man's a bit busy. I've talked to him several times, emailed a few times. I wouldn't know what to do. I mean, I'm happy to make a video. Every time he puts out a podcast, it's to me, I'm thinking, should I make a video for this? Because he puts out podcasts that are just audio and they have no video. And with video, it can be enhanced. Which is what I did with his speech about morality that he did at Notre Dame, which now has 500,000 views, which is what I did when he put out a podcast on Charlie Hebdo, which has 250,000 views. These are things I can help. I can help with Sam on those issues. It's what I did with mashups. All these mashups that I do, I don't make the mashups, the audio. I find a mashup that is just an MP3, and instead of just blankly looking at some graphic for 3 minutes, I'm like, well, why don't I make some visuals for this? So yeah, I'm all for it. It's just a matter of which piece of audio of Sam's, and is it important enough to justify the time investment? So maybe with his new book coming out with Majid Nawaz, maybe there's a chance to help him catapult that thing. Sam Harris is doing his thing, and who knows where his goals are. I mean, Sam is a very complex, deep guy. He's got many interests. He's not some crusader for atheism. He's not David Silverman. He would rather not talk about that. So I think he's a fascinating guy. And if there's a chance to work with him, if there's a chance for me to illegally steal his audio and then produce a video, then I will do it. Okay, next one. Here's Turtle Herder. Do you have any issues with real-world security resulting from your YouTube or Twitter life? Not yet. You're safe until you're not. Look, I'm eating a blueberry muffin. Look, there's a lot of shit said on the internet, and I happen to be one of the people saying a lot of shit. But the jihadists don't have the resources, the logistics, or the motivation to go after everybody that insults the Prophet or their religion. And I'm also not very popular. I'm a speck. I'm a flea speck on the global spectrum. So, and not to mention I don't show my face, I'm not that public, and not to mention I live in remote places that nobody has ever heard of. And I'm constantly moving around. So it's going to be difficult to track me down. I mean, look, at some point, let's say some jihadists, I piss somebody off and they spread it around their social media, and it's like, hey, this guy, target this guy, here's a picture of him, this is the guy who's saying this. That could easily happen. And, we've seen before that Muslims do get violent and kill people that insult their shit. So it's not out of the question. And if that happens, and if I am killed or targeted, then that would suck. But at least we have the all-knowing atheists, the 14 and 16-year-old, to carry on after me. So the future looks bright even if I get picked off, but I'm going to try to avoid that. Mr. Joshua says, back in the 90s there was a white supremacist skinhead movement that could have grown into a huge problem. It ended up getting stomped out by law enforcement and the fact that the rest of society, including the media, unequivocally condemned it. Fast forward to today, where the Garland shooting, for instance, is followed by excuse-making, apologetics, and victim-blaming. Has America really become so deluded that many people have to coddle those who commit senseless, violent acts? Yeah, I mean, part of what is inherent in that question is an idea that America is not deluded. It never was not deluded. I mean, if anything, the internet has shown us just how crazy and screwed up people are, their ideas are, and the world is at large. For example, we all knew that Russia and Russians were a bit off in the 80s and the 90s. With the internet, we have confirmation of that, and it's way worse than we ever thought. You watch some Russian YouTube videos, and you will be thankful that you do not live in Russia. It's crazy. Now, it's not a new crazy. They've always been that way. It's just now they're putting dash cams on their cars, so we get to see it all. So we've always had these hippie, liberal scum who want to apologize and just sing Kumbaya and be pacifists and just let hideous, horrible things just come in and take over. And we've always had religious lunatics in America. It's always been bad. It really has. It's just now we're seeing that. It's been called a overreaction, a sort of extreme countermeasure to the fact that we know that in the past we have been racist and bigoted and have done terrible things to groups of people, multiple groups of people in our past. So now any sort of targeting of a group of people is viewed by many to be, oh, that's bad. That's bad. You just targeted a group. Profiled. You profiled. You discriminated. These words are not bad words. You should be profiling and discriminating. You should be. You do. Everybody does. Everybody should. It's just nobody wants to admit it. The only thing that's bad about discriminating and profiling and having prejudices is having them for the wrong reasons. Being incorrect in your profiling. Not being supported by facts and reality. If you are, then you have every reason in the world to do those things. The sad truth is, we're not prejudging anybody. We're judging. We're judging people based on their actions. So if one group of people, a subset of Islamic people, if they are behaving in a certain way, we are now judging them. And we are totally justified to do so. And to call them out as a group. But what you get in response is just people that, it's really meta. You have to zoom back. These people are against anybody who's against anybody. So if you are anti-anything, they're going to be against you. If you hate anything, if you hate anybody or anything, they're against you. You're hateful. You're a bigot. Do you see? This is their solution to world issues. You got two choices. If somebody's doing something fucked up, and somebody else points out and says, hey, that person, that's fucked up what they're doing. For the hippie progressive liberal, their two choices are, one, eradicate the problem. That seems a bit tricky though, that's kind of a hard one. Or two, eradicate the person pointing out the problem. Now it's even more advanced. Now it's to level 3, which is eradicate the word that the person is using to point out the problem. Terrorism. The T word, as Al Jazeera calls it. So just eradicate the word, which will diminish the person pointing out the problem. And that's their little fucked up primate solution to a problem in the world. Deny it. Jam your head into the sand and figure out a way to make this okay. Bring up some shit that the KKK did 100 years ago. And there you go. Tie a nice little bow around it. You just solved the problems of the world. Oh, Mr. Cohen has asked, what's your view on socialist communism? A world under one banner for world peace and sharing all resources. I would say it's a nice idea in principle. In practice, it's horrible. I would say it's pretty misguided in terms of how it conflicts with the innate instincts of human beings. We are a competitive species. We are here because we are a competitive species. Because we want to get ahead. We want to excel. That is not conducive to communism. Socialism, of course, yeah, we're all socialistic at some level, and the European nations have done this far better than America. I mean, look at healthcare. It's ridiculous that it's privatized in America and everybody gets fucked in the end, and the corporations win, the drug companies win. And if you were to suggest that England abolish the NHS and make it private, they would look at you like you were an alien, because it is that bizarre what we do in America. It's embarrassing. So there is a balance to be drawn, and there's been no example of communism working. And I'm sure there are many books that go into hyper-specific detail as to why it cannot work. And obviously capitalism is not exactly great either if you're concerned about everybody, which is really the bottom line of this question, is are you concerned about everybody? If you say you're a socialist, there's a general implication that you are. If you say I'm a red-blooded capitalist, capitalism, yeah, you're basically saying I care for me and mine and fuck the Mexicans. That's essentially what you're saying. So the question is, do you actually care about everybody in the world, for starters, your nation state, your city? Now, I don't know how honest you want to get with yourself, because obviously you're going to say, oh yeah, I do. I care about the world. I care about people. Do you care to the point where you're willing to give up part of your income? And if so, what part? Why is it that everybody on the planet begrudgingly pays taxes? I mean, do you care about a starving kid in Pakistan? Now, in any real sense, you don't care, because you're not giving money to that kid or to any charities in Pakistan. So you could be, but you're not. So your level of care is so minimal and it's such window dressing that, oh yeah, if somebody asks me in public, do you care about the starving kids of the world? Of course, yes. Oh yeah, I do, I care. So, okay, you're going to donate money? No, I'm not going to donate money. I have to drink a $5 Starbucks, thank you very much. These lattes do not pay for themselves. So ideally, you could set up a system in which there is the bare minimum. The poorest of the poor get a standard of living and get access to things that will make their life good. If you could bring the low end of the bar up, then you're doing pretty good. I mean, you should see the homeless people in Germany. They have some homeless, drunken, psychotic people here. Not a lot, percentage-wise, but they have an infrastructure where they can deal with these people. They have places to shelter them during the winter. They provide them with food. There are many organizations that help homeless people out. Job placement, training. I mean, seriously, if you are homeless in Germany, you have every chance in the world to not be. In America, if you're homeless, you are really fucked. You really have to go out of your way to find help, and the help is minimal. So there are better ways of running the system, but communism is... it ain't the solution. Now, this next question has 59 upvotes, so this is a real hot topic. Is there anything worse than the Crusades? Is there anything worse than dropping nuclear bombs? Not really sure what you mean. Maybe you meant it like this. Is there anything worse than the Crusades? Is there anything worse than dropping nuclear bombs? Oh, in that case, yeah. Let me think on that. Yeah, I mean... Those are the two boogeymen talking points when somebody's trying to criticize the West, or Christians, or white people in general. Why? Because they're famous. Strictly, they're famous. And there's a one-word thing. Hiroshima, Nagasaki, the Crusades. There is no one word to describe the hundreds of years of jihad, which spread the Muslim faith by the sword, by killing people. This series of conquests has no one word to it, so therefore what? Therefore, it's not memorable. It has no good PR. But yeah, that is worse. Everything is worse than the Crusades. Almost everything. World War II. The war crimes of World War II are far worse. The bombs on Hiroshima, that you could call that worse. Some people say it would have been worse to have not dropped the bomb because it would have killed millions more. Millions more. I mean, you talk about these theoretical moral situations. If somebody says, what is better, to kill 2 million additional people or to not, by killing a couple 100,000? What's better? Now, you cannot really make the argument that not ending that war in that way, which those bombs did, would have not led to more deaths in the island hopping as we approach Japan. You know that's not a valid argument. So the question really comes down to, is it better to kill 200,000 people to avoid killing 2 million? And this is not in a vacuum. This is at the end of a war in which there was so much death. The world has never seen, and never will see probably, this much death and destruction. We're talking about dozens of millions of people. So it's a terrible situation. Jimmy Dore's comedy, a picture of Cenk Uygur naked. But yeah, it gets into a very strange situation. I mean, the reason these things are brought up is because they're seen as big things. They're seen as events where a lot of people died. So it's not the act themselves is not so bad. I mean, somebody's going to kill somebody today. That's as bad as these things. Any killing is as bad as any other killing. In fact, the guy that's going to kill somebody today, or like let's say a terrorist, like let's say the people that just got blown up in Chad, suicide bombing. So there's some innocent people that died for no goddamn reason. That is worse than the Crusades and Hiroshima and Nagasaki. We were at war with Japan. Japan attacked us. We had every right to defend ourselves. Yeah, we broke the Geneva Convention. We killed civilians. They were killing civilians. Everybody was killing civilians. But we were justified in doing that. We were in a war. Just like the Crusades was a lashing back against the Muslim world for taking over lands that they didn't even own in the first place. I mean, there were justifications to that. Some guy getting destroyed today in, a blast for no reason, that is worse morally. It's just it didn't kill 100,000 people. So it's not mentioned. It won't be mentioned. Moving on. This is going to be a lot of questions. Jesus, I'm going to have to break this up into multiple parts. How do you imagine a future society? Let's say 300 years from now. 2 scenarios. 1, religions evolve and still exist. 2, religions are remembered just as fairy tales and have close to no followers. That is an interesting question, and I have not thought about it much. I would venture this guess, which is, I don't think religion can hold up under the weight and pressure of the fact that it's fucking completely wrong. In light of the fact that we have a voice now, there's a backlash, a challenging, a public, overt challenging of every idea that religious people have. It's being put under the microscope, under the light, with the internet. I don't think religion can survive 100 years of the internet. I mean, historically it never has because there's never been an internet. There's never been an atheist movement. There's never been a group of people saying, you people are all wrong and here's why. A united effort from scientists and educated people to defeat them on every battlefront. On the issue of gay people, on the issue of the legitimacy of the Bible, on the divine claims of Muhammad, of destroying Mormonism, destroying Scientology, destroying Noah's Ark, original sin, the idea that human sacrifice could even work or would work or is even remotely moral, the hypocrisy, the issue of slavery. I mean, all of these things, you see it playing out. You see the erratic, look at Christianity and Judaism. Even before the internet, these guys were on their last leg. Now, not in terms of numbers. That's the thing. You'll always hear these stats of like, oh, well, religion is growing. Yeah, that's basically like saying people in Mexico are having babies. People in Nigeria are pumping out kids. Yeah, we get that. We get that. But many other people have said, look, you're one generation removed from making this thing a superstitious thing from the past. There is a tipping point that will be reached. I wish we had more information about the Flat Earth Society or the Flat Earthers of the day. Everybody thought it was a flat Earth. So when the people figured out that there wasn't a flat Earth, how long did it take for the world to accept that? That wasn't a 10-year period. I'm guessing that took a bit of convincing. Just like Galileo ran into a few obstacles when he tried to suggest that we are not the center of the universe. Humans are painfully slow and cling to their traditions and their stupid warped beliefs like an infant holding its blankie. And the whole point is, it's been discussed before, the reason they cling so tight to this shit is not because they feel that they have the evidence behind them, it's because at the end of this process of religion crumbling down like a Jenga game, the final thought that will cross their minds is, oh shit, death is real. Oh shit, I don't get to live forever. That is at the core. That is what is holding this together. It is unbelievable. Religion is like a house of cards that you have put together that you would think just a slight gust of wind could knock this thing over. And what have we been doing this whole time? We've been pulling out the supporting beams of this house of cards. So, the Bible is filled with errors. Okay, well, let's take out this support structure. Oh, there is no evidence Jesus existed. Oh, that one kind of sucked. That was a big dent. So now you have this ridiculous Swiss cheese looking building made of cards that is somehow still leaning up. It's still standing. It's unbelievable. And the glue that holds it together is the raw fear that people have of death. If that was removed, religion would topple in a generation. It would be like, why would I believe something that's not true? That makes no sense. What's in it for me? Just remember, the most popular verse in the Bible is not so-and-so begat so-and-so. It's not you got to do this on Saturdays. It's not stone gay people. It's Daddy in the sky loved you so much that you're going to get to live forever. That is the selling point. And that is why it's stuck around this long. But never underestimate the stupidity of the human animal. There are people out there that, as I have shown, are willing to believe in the most ghastly, retarded stuff. I don't see that changing. I mean, there's always going to be people like this. People whose minds are not operating well, who are happy to delude themselves. This has always been the case, and I see every reason to think that it always will be the case. It's just maybe we can skew the numbers a bit. Maybe we can up the level of what basic education means in 100 years. Just like basic education today, people know what earthquakes are. We know what causes earthquakes. Religion had to give us that. Religion used to take that. It still tries to take that. But we have an entire field of science dedicated to, no, we do know how earthquakes happen. So I think slowly but surely, piece by piece, they will have to relinquish their grasp on more and more things. Healthcare, mental health care, the gay issue, slavery. Jordan Johnston, what sports you into, Devin? And what's your thoughts on the current Democratic field for president? The sports that I am into, I played a bunch of sports growing up. Soccer was my love. My father is English, and so he got me playing AYSO soccer, which is, what is that? American Youth Soccer Organization, yeah. And I was awesome. I was just fucking unbelievable. Like it was a glorious victory-laden past. My childhood was all about me winning soccer games. And it was very definitional, I think, in my upbringing, like that I would have success. I think my father always says, if you're a child growing up at something, he thinks it's very important for them to be good at something. It doesn't even matter what it is, just you have to have some sort of internal self-esteem, something that you can hang your hat on and say, I'm good at something. Whether it's chess or, anything. Video games, school. For me, soccer was one of those things that really elevated me. And then, of course, I played baseball and basketball, and I was the kicker on my football team in high school. And, I was voted most athletic in high school. And I played sports all throughout my life. Then I got into gym life, and I go to the gym every day now. And I run. I don't like running. I hate running, but I run because I don't want to be fat like Jenk. And nowadays it's mixed martial arts. So the UFC is what I'm way into. I'm going to Berlin in a couple days to go see the UFC in person. I used to train jiu-jitsu with Rickson Gracie, who is one of the masters of Brazilian jiu-jitsu, comes from the Gracie family. Amazing. It was a real privilege to train with him. But, I'm talking white belt level stuff here. I'm not way into jiu-jitsu. I'm definitely an appreciator of the combat sports. But I stayed up last night till 4 a.m. to watch Golden State Warriors win. Beautiful. Stephen Curry was going crazy. I've watched that guy. I watched him in college at Davidson. It's quite thrilling. Him and Klay Thompson, his Splash Brother partner. Unbelievable. I watched Klay Thompson's father play, Michael Thompson, for the Lakers throughout the 80s, winning championships. And now he has some son? Some light-skinned son? How white was the girl that Michael Thompson married? Michael Thompson is a light-skinned guy from the Bahamas. So, there's some interbreeding going on here, but his son is amazing. Ridiculous. This prototypical shooter. This guy's draining threes from well behind the arc without any hesitation. There is no shyness from Klay Thompson. He will jack up a three and then drain it. The only thing more audacious than Klay Thompson firing off a three-pointer from 2 feet behind the line within a split second, with like a split-second release time, is the fact that he makes it in public in front of millions of people while he's getting paid millions of dollars. Yeah, pretty amazing. International, and World Cup stuff, love that. Traveling around the world, you see soccer everywhere, and it's beloved, and I love the passion. I love passion. Okay, Scientific Naturalism asks, did you take any physics classes while you were in school? If so, did you enjoy them? Yeah, I love physics class. I had a really good teacher at my high school, Pacific Palisades, Pali High, and he was a genius, and you could tell. He was operating at a different level, and he was awesome because the first day of class, he said, in a very sort of cynical way, he said, look, I am not here to teach you anything per se. My goal this semester is to make you aware of your ignorance. which is essentially what education is. But the fact that he could just say that, just be like, you teenage schmucks do not know diddly dick about physics or how the world operates. I am here to tell you, to show you how little you know. And then he broke down the basics of physics. I didn't take it in college, though, because I was off doing my fine art stuff and social science stuff. And I let the nerds, and more specifically the Asians, handle the math and physics. Because UCLA is the University of Caucasians lost among Asians. Because Asians do well at school. Because their parents demand that they do well at school. Notice that I just discriminated and profiled and prejudged Asians. I made a generalization about Asians. And guess what? Guess who's going to complain about that? Nobody. Nobody will say, how dare you lump all Asians into that category? Because they know it's true. Because they know it's true, and there's no sour aftertaste in their brain of like, oh, that sounded negative. That was an accurate portrayal of a negative thing in society. No, it was an accurate portrayal of a positive thing in society. So, can you do another video on The Exorcist guy? That shit was funny. Yeah, I should check back in with him. I do every once in a while. I mean, he is so out there. The guy, Chris Lasala, he traveled down to like Haiti? No, not Haiti. It was some fucked up country down there. The Dominican Republic, I want to say. And he has like a wife down there who's having a baby. And he's like, he's doing his demented ministry from Skype, but he's on a spiritual quest. He's not just purely doing exorcisms anymore. I think he's over that. But that guy is really out there. I mean, he is a Guido. The man comes from like New Jersey. And he's a real basket case. I mean, he is definitely firmly implanted in the whack pack. And he's not going anywhere. So if you want to be entertained, I'm sure go to his channel if you can stomach it. Have you ever taken a look at the website The Religion of Peace? It's a collection of Muslim opinion polls and tells you everything you would need to know to understand the severity of the problem of Islam. Yeah, The Religion of Peace is a great website, and it's a great tool. As with everything that you look at, you have to know why it's there and who made it and what angle they're coming at this thing from. So I happen to agree with what is being said and shown on that site because it happens to be true. Doesn't mean all of it is true, so you'd have to always look at it with a skeptical eye. Same thing with Bare Naked Islam. I mean, that guy has opinions about stuff that I don't necessarily agree with. But what he shows is all real. So you can ascertain what you feel about these things. I mean, stats are stats. I say that, but you have to verify the validity of the stats. You don't just want to hear stats are also distorted all the time. Like listening to these progressives try to claim that Muslim terrorism isn't a big problem. Why? Because they don't do it that much in America. In fact, most terrorism in America isn't Muslim terrorism. That's a true stat. Very true stat. They don't mention that Muslims make up 0.8% of the population of America. They don't mention that. That's also a true stat. Now, one of those stats means nothing without the other stat. Absolutely nothing. And yet they try to pass it off as a useful number. That is incredible. That is worth shoving their face into a pile of excrement and really punishing them for trying to do that. That's not just wrong. It's immoral. It's so dishonest and backward. It deserves getting called out for. Carlos's daughter asks me, when are you coming to England and can we be best friends forever? Ah, BFF, huh? Uh-huh. Well, I'm coming to England soon. I might come there next week or in about 2 weeks because I want to visit my sister before she and the family go off to LA to visit my father. So I might be heading out to London town in the near future. Are you going to continue Atheist Reacts? Atheists React. Yeah, that is a channel that I've made that has one video. A big-ass video that I spent a lot of time making. And I have 2 other videos that are coming up with that, and I'm in the process of editing those. It takes more time to edit, just because there's multiple atheists, and it's just logistically, it just takes a long time to put together. But they're good ones. They're 2 ones. One's on Fox News talking about how atheism is a religion, and the other one is an interview with Kevin Sorbo about God is not dead, where it's pretty painful. And I had some really cool people were kind enough to help me with that, and I should get that out there so you guys can see it because it's good entertainment. Ben Paul asks, this is a common question atheists are asked, but I'm interested in the Rue's take on it. What would you say to God? Let's go with the Abrahamic one for simplicity. If you died and discovered he really did exist. The Abrahamic God exists, and I died. I would say, just kidding. Can I take a mulligan? Can we do a do-over? I would say, where's Johnny Cochran? Can he represent me? I would say, what am I doing here talking to you? Shouldn't I be in the other place? I would say, can I get a fist bump? You know what I would say probably? I would say, hey, say what you will about my atheism and total lack of belief and constant mocking of you, but I did support the Jews. I was a major Jew supporter. Not their religious ideas, but the Jewish people. But the secular, enlightened, reformed Jewish people, yeah, I was a massive supporter. And Israel. Let's not forget that, God. I made multiple videos supporting Israel. I know that's going to sit favorably with you. I would say, where's Hitchens? I want to drink some Johnny Walker right now. Black Label. I would say, before you send me down to hell, where is Kirk Cameron's father? I want to knee that guy in the nuts. Okay, Corey writes, how about you tell us how you think Islam would most likely become dominant and rule in Europe? Tell us what steps you think Islam would most likely need to take to rule over the lands and people there. The gullible believers and the rational disbelievers. Surely it would need to be an absolutely overwhelming majority to implement something like Sharia law, at least 80% in favor or more. Yeah, I think it's just basic demographics and breeding rates and migratory trends. It's the same shit that happens in California. Why is the mayor of Los Angeles Mexican? First of all, why is California not Mexico? And it's because we had a bunch of white people living there. White settlers who eventually just said, okay, this is now ours. And then the backlash is, why is the mayor of Los Angeles Mexican? And the reason is because there are mostly Mexicans in Los Angeles. White people are the minority in California. There's close to 40 million people in California, and white people are not in the majority. It's not even close. It's Asians, blacks, and Mexicans. So what do people do? They vote for people who look like them, who believe the same things they believe. So at the rates that they are going, the Muslims, pick your European city, pick your European country, this trend is not stopping. The trend is that they are going to breed more and more. And eventually, it's not going to be that abnormal to be like, oh yeah, Sweden has half Muslim people. Oh yeah, that's normal. This is like the process of aging. You don't wake up one morning and say you're old. You say, well, I'm a day older than I was yesterday. So England didn't always have 4.5% Muslim. It used to have 3.5%. And then a few years before that, it had 2.5%. And so on and so on. But the way things are going, there is going to be a kickback, a pushback. It's not just humans do not react that well to foreign people coming into their space and telling them how to live and shitting on all of their culture and their traditions and infringing upon their rights and being violent and belligerent. This doesn't sit well with a lot of people. So there will be a backlash, and I think you're seeing that. Hypothetical question. The world's going to end due to famine, war, poverty, civil uprising, nuclear destruction. Who's most likely to blame? And how and in which scenario? Well, unless you're talking The Walking Dead, it's not going to be that dramatic. The Earth is almost like the Titanic, or the way the Titanic was supposed to work, which was if there was a rupture in the hull, you could close off all the other sections and the boat would still float. The problem was the iceberg destroyed all of the sections of the hull, and so there was no saving it. But we can compartmentalize. I mean, let's say the Middle East goes to shit and there's a massive war out there. It's not going to affect the people in Argentina. So life will go on. We are very tenacious. We are the cockroaches of this planet. We're the locusts of this planet, is more specific. So I think a larger threat would be environmental. I think if those trends continue and if all these alarming numbers from environmental scientists continue, which they are, that is a big problem. We live on a knife's edge and it's quite fragile. If the honeybees die, we're all fucked. If the trees get eradicated, we're fucked. Ozone layer, radiation, global warming, all that stuff, it's all real. And I think that is quite a big threat. It is interesting to think about nuclear fallout and what would happen if Russia got crazy or Pakistan or any of these people just decided, fuck it, let's just do this. The kind of world we would have after that would not look like Mad Max, but it would look pretty bad. I just think though that now with the internet, I think we could probably piece it back together. If some nerd could figure out how to get the internet back online, basically after a nuclear war, you got to call the IT guy and get him to get the goddamn internet back, and then okay, we'll figure out how to rebuild everything. But these are all worst case scenarios, which I don't think we're quite in danger of. Humanity is very persistent. But as far as who's going to start something like that, it's going to be religious people. It's going to be Muslims. That is for sure the problem. For sure, it's Muslims. I can't be more clear than that. It's not going to be, you know what, Israel is just, they got bored. They just decided to launch a nuclear attack against Somalia. It's not going to happen. Okay, the Zen master, Mr. Potato Head, has asked me about a YouTube clip, which is an hour-and-a-half movie, which I do not have time to watch now, but I promise you I will watch it because I did watch 10 seconds and it seems interesting. You are one of my jolliest fans. Would be gutted if you didn't get around to me. Regards from your Anglo-Australian conservative brother. Okay. Well, Aussie, Aussie, Aussie. And he's got a picture of Ragnar from the Vikings, which I love. So, okay. I will get back to you on that. Far Cloud writes, what issues over the past 20 years have you switched or changed positions on? Oh, that's an interesting one, isn't it? Switched. I would say there's a couple things. First of all, in high school, I was pro-America. I was more Republican, I would say. I think it's interesting. First of all, let's be clear. I was an idiot. A young person, really not aware of much and just sort of reactionary. When the first Gulf War happened in Iraq, all of my friends, who were all sort of left, democratic types, and my parents, you have to understand, my parents are Democrats, like hardcore, liberal, artsy people. My father's a singer, a musician. Stepmother is a dancer, arts education. Lifelong liberal Democrats. So, of course, what am I going to do? I'm going to resist that. So I resisted my friends and my family, and I said, you know what? No, I'm in favor of what we're doing in the Gulf War. And I actually am still in favor of that. So I supported George Bush, and I would come to school with a little American flag pin on my backpack. And I think there was a time where I was listening to Rush Limbaugh. I listened to Rush Limbaugh because I liked his contrarian viewpoint. I said, I can use this and argue with my parents about this. Now, it wasn't long after that I realized that Rush Limbaugh was a total ass. And I am so democratic and liberal that it makes me giggle to think that I would at that time sided with guys like Rush Limbaugh. But what I was hearing back then was this sort of knee-jerk reaction to say, fuck America. This was progressivism back then. It was, America went to war in Iraq to help Kuwait? Aren't we terrible? And I wasn't for that. I was much more of a patriot. I was much more of a company man, down with the cause. I think looking back, it's interesting that nobody talks about the first Iraq War. Nobody. Because history has shown us that it was a good thing, that it was a justified act. And none of these people want to talk about it because there's nothing to talk about. So they instantly will go to the second Iraq War where they can get all their self-hatred and fuck America antics off their chest. So that's one issue. I would say another issue is gay stuff. When I was younger, especially high school, even college, I was not familiar with gays, gay culture, gay people. So it was very foreign and strange to me. And I think this is the case for a lot of people, especially back in the day before there were gays in public, gays on TV and movies. It was much more of a closeted situation. It's just foreign. It doesn't seem natural at all, because it's not natural to me, because it is weird, very weird to me. I cannot understand being sexually attracted to a male. So, oddly enough, I could understand lesbianism. I really was no issues there. Happy to dive into lesbian porn, not a single care in the world. But as time goes by and you meet gay people and you see gay people and you go to a bathhouse and you have anal sex, kidding, you do become more comfortable with it. And for me, I began to realize, I was the problem. I didn't understand that this was a natural thing. This is as natural as every other thing. There are literally millions of gay people, and there always will be, and this is part of what it is to be a biological organism. And there's nothing wrong with it, even beyond that. I don't care if it's foreign to me or if I'm weird about it or if I don't agree with it. They agree with it. It's not foreign to them. This is what they want to do. I have no say in the matter, and they have every right to do whatever they want to do. So that was my transition in terms of the gay issue. And then to see all the homophobic stuff, and then to see the religious people dogpiling, and to see just this ridiculous fact that we still have to talk about gay shit in 2015. I mean, in a big way. This is not a resolved issue. Yeah, it's great for Anderson Cooper, Ricky Martin. I mean, these are people that came out of the closet like 40 years into their life. But there's a ton of people where this is a massive issue. It's not even remotely resolved. So I have sympathy for them. I have solidarity with them. I watch Eurovision, for God's sakes. Okay? That practically makes me an honorary gay. And yet I'm as straight as an arrow. I mean, I'm so comfortable with that it's not a hang-up for me. I can openly joke about gays. I can talk about that without being personally like, oh no, is my sexuality come into question? Which you will find. You will find that in a lot of, you'll find that with the political candidates. You'll find that with pastors. They are not comfortable with sexuality, period. Full stop. So listening to them bitch and moan and talk about the evils of homosexuality is an absurdity. Let's hear them talk about sexual positions. They're probably going to be just as awkward and ridiculous and lame about that. So that is my thought. Another issue I have changed positions on. Let me think. I would say one position that I have changed positions on and am in sort of constant flux with is veganism, vegetarianism, hunting, animal rights in the terms of the morality involved in us killing animals or in how we treat animals. I mean, this issue for me is one that I recognize I don't really have a solid answer. My answer is not sitting on firm ground because I don't know the answer. I quite frankly don't know the answer yet. The question is, should we eat meat? Originally, at first, I was just dead set. I'm against hunters. I'm against fuck the hunters. I don't like hunters. They're cunts. They have little penises. I don't like them. I still don't like them. But then somebody says, well, you eat meat. So how do you think people got that meat? And so then I say, okay, no, I draw a line between if you're going out and killing giraffes and elephants and lions and deer, that's different. Cows and chickens and fish, I'm fine with that. Okay, then why? How and why are you fine with that? Why are you drawing these arbitrary moral lines and differences? What's the difference between a pig and a deer, morally? And I don't have a very good answer for that. I really don't. I love the fact that I think it was Japan or something, or maybe not. I'm not sure where. India, somewhere, they declared dolphins to be non-human persons. Dolphins are not mammals, they're not fish, they're not an animal. They are a person, a non-human person, which is such a fascinating term to me. And it really does sort of shake your foundation of how you view other life forms, which in turn shapes how you view yourself. What is the difference between us and a dolphin? Aside from opposable thumbs and our specific form of language? I mean, it really gets pathetic when people try to declare our superiority over dolphins, where they'll say shit like, we're the only ones that can contemplate our own mortality. It's like, how do you know that? How do you know dolphins don't do that? You don't. And then they go, well, we create art. I was like, well, we create shit too. We create urine porn. This is not something you can hang your hat on and say, fuck off dolphins, we painted a picture, so we're better than you. So these are the kind of considerations that I admit is an issue that is an ongoing, I'm not sure the answer. I'm not sure anybody really has, I have not heard a convincing argument on either side, but my girlfriend is vegan, and so I live a vegan lifestyle for the most part until I slip away and get a doona, which is a meat sandwich, Turkish. I am fed by Muslims on a daily basis. I disparage them, their religion, everything they hold to be sacred. I shit upon it, and then I ask them to feed me. This one might be too personal, but how does German sound like while having sex? I mean, if she talks. Yeah. How does it sound like? Unless you specifically ask for her to speak, she's gonna remain somewhat quiet. The sort of infamous thing, if you're having sex with some Spanish-speaking girl, is she's gonna be like, "Ay, papi, ay." There is no equivalent in German. It's not like, "Ja, mein Führer, ja, schnell." Weiter, schnell. No, it's sadly the times where she does speak German is sometimes in her sleep. So she will wake up and be dreaming essentially and talk in German, and it's pretty freaky. German is freaky. Every time, we are raised on a whole litany of World War II movies. So the only German we know is from what we hear Nazis saying during the war. The average American might know a few German words, and they're usually like the word to tell a German shepherd to go kill a Jew. We'll know that word. We're not going to know philosophy or love songs in German, but we're going to know the Nazi talk. But listen to it. I mean, it's pretty intense when they start talking sexually in German. Check this out. Oh, man. What is my purpose? Just asked me. Fuck, marry, kill. Douglas Murray, Sam Harris, David Silverman. Go. Oh, Lord. I got to contemplate this one? Okay. I just called out. I said I was comfortable talking gay stuff, so I'm being put to the test. Fuck, marry, kill. Okay, let me think this one through. I gotta kill one of these people? Jeez. Okay, I'm gonna marry Sam Harris because I think marriages are based off coexisting. They're based off friendship, and I think he would be a fascinating guy to have conversations with over and over. I don't think he would get uninteresting. Sam Harris's life from now until the end of his life is going to be an interesting ride. So to be his married partner would be a fun journey to take. I'm going to have to say I would fuck Douglas Murray because now my options are Douglas Murray or David Silverman, and I'm guessing that a gay guy is better at sex than a straight guy when it comes to man-on-man sex. I'm going to guess that. So yeah, let me fuck Douglas Murray, and I'm going to have to kill you, David. David, you're going to be killed, and don't take it personally. I was forced into this situation. This was like Sophie's choice for me. If it helps, I will fuck you first, David, and then I'll kill you, just to send you out with a smile. Besides Cenk, which Young Turks host do you think is the worst? Yeah, I mean, the thing is that Anna, she skates by on her looks. If you took away the looks from Anna, we would all hate her. She isn't as bad on certain issues, like she acknowledges that she's an atheist, for example. She's such a yes man to Cenk on every issue, to the point where the 100th anniversary of the Armenian genocide comes and goes, and she doesn't do a friggin' video on it on the Young Turks. That is historically bad. She should be boycotted by Armenians for having done that. Now, if she tried to get one on the Young Turks and failed, and they said no, that's one thing, and that's quite possible what happened. But the fact that that didn't happen is unforgivable. So Anna, in general, is not as bad. She has her progressive woo-woo nonsense, and she dogpiles on white people just like the rest of them, and is racist. I believe she's racist. I honestly do. Not the popular version of racism, the unspoken racism towards white people. She loves that shit. No. The worst, I don't think it's Ben. I think Ben shows signs of common sense. I think the worst is Jimmy Dore, and then John, this John guy, he is pretty insufferable. He is just a puppet. He is really just he's like a Pinocchio that has just been programmed in this ideology, and he just spits it out. He's the guy. If I was in a battle with the Young Turks and we came to violence, and it was me standing up with Pat Condell and Douglas Murray and a couple others, and it was the Young Turks standing at the other side, and I had a crossbow, I'd be pointing it at Cenk. Now, after that first crossbow hits Cenk in the heart, the next guy I'm targeting is John. Metaphorically. But they're all they're all to be put to shame. I mean, they have some black gay guy on there who is just totally insufferable. Oh my Lord. I mean, the social justice fucking victimization, and it is so nauseating. That show is really nauseating. It really does touch a nerve. Anybody that watches, I mean, you guys watch it. If you've ever seen it, you cannot go 2 minutes without just being like, oh God, I want to punch these people. Godless Gamer asks, where do you live and when will you reveal yourself? Well, I am revealed. I'm revealed to the people in my life in real life. They know me. They see me. They touch me. Wear my bathing suit covers. There is no obligation for me to reveal myself online. I did not say, you know what, I want to make a YouTube channel so I can get my face out there. I want to be famous. I want my name and face to be associated with this. No, this is an intellectual pursuit, artistic pursuit. It's a creative hobby, an outlet, a place to voice my mind. Having my face involved, not to mention I've showed my face on several occasions. I mean, any of you can Facebook me. I'm sitting there. I have a website up. There's a picture of me right there. I mean, I'm all over the place. Go to LinkedIn. I'm everywhere. It's not important to me, though. I'm not trying to be some personality, some F-list internet celebrity. That's not my aim. I live in southern Germany right now. I'm about to go to Berlin, got to go to London, about to go to Vegas. We're thinking about moving to New Zealand or Australia. I've lived in Buenos Aires and Rio and Barcelona and Stockholm and Budapest and several different places. Okay, Jenk Flintstone. My question regards Muslim apologist atheists like Bionic Dance, where she pretends to herself that she happens to equally attack all religions except Islam, where she recently made a video with the excuse that she can never find any material on them. It's complete bullshit, seeing how they're 99% of terrorism attacks worldwide. The heart of the question relies in, where do these apologists benefit in not criticizing Islam? Thanks, keep up the good work. There's a few things at play there. First of all, Bionic Dance is a total fucking cunt. I've said it before. It's absolutely a true statement. She is absolutely annoying. I listened to that video of hers, and the smacking of her gums, she's like, constant moisture in her mouth. She doesn't edit it out. It's unbelievable. She is revolting. Have you seen the picture of her naked online? Of her fucking gash? Her fat, disgusting gash? I mean, she is really a monster. And she's annoying. She's obnoxious. She doesn't bring anything to the table. She's an irritant. I hate her. I fucking hate that woman. If I can call her that. I'll call her Caitlyn. Bionic Caitlyn. What is the benefit of not criticizing Islam? You get to live longer. You don't put yourself on the line. I don't think that's really the most important thing for people like her. I think anytime you get an American who doesn't address Islam, the answer is because they don't know any Muslims. They don't consider this their problem. It's the same reason that you don't get Americans talking about cholera, because there's no outbreak of cholera in America. There is in other places of the world, but it doesn't affect them. Out of sight, out of mind. So it makes total sense that people in America are going to criticize Christianity. It also is an amazing blindness to what's happening in the world. I mean, listen, why do you think Pat Condell speaks out against Islam? Christopher Hitchens, myself. Because we live next to Muslims. We live out here. We see Europe. We've traveled the world. We understand that there's more than just fucking Utah or wherever she's from. San Francisco? Who knows? I think that's just weak-minded. I mean, you hear these people. All they do is Christian shit because that's all they know. That's all that affects them. I'm doing a series on Australia. I don't live in Australia. That's fucking halfway around the world. It doesn't affect me. I'm still interested in it. I'm doing videos on Israel. I don't live in Israel. I'm not Jewish. I'm about to do a video about Myanmar. Videos about the Middle East. This is getting outside of yourself. It's not all about you. This is like, it reminds me of the interview Christopher Hitchens did, where they said, how did it change you when you found out that you had Jewish descent? Did that encourage your support of Jews and your defense of sort of anti-Semitism around the world? And he said, no, why should it have? He said, it didn't affect it at all. He said, I am in favor of protecting Jews from hate crimes and anti-Semitism because that's the right thing to be. He's like, I support the Kurds. I'm not Kurdish. I support gays. I'm not gay. And he took this as a time to make the point that it is ridiculously egocentric and speaks to the root self-centeredness of most humans, of all humans. It's just to varying degrees of just how egomaniacal it is for you to just care about shit that you are involved in. I mean, who is studying black studies, African American studies in college? African Americans. Who is studying women's studies in college? Women. Oh, there are exceptions. You'll get the fucking white guilt-riddled person who takes African American studies. You'll get the male feminist who feels that it's his duty to study women's issues. And guess what? We could rip those people to shreds. Those people tend to be awful people. Guilt-riddled, pathetic, obnoxious people who have a lot of hypocrisy, a lot of finger-pointing, and they cannot stand up to criticism. Who are your top 5? If you could talk to anyone for 3 hours on anything you would like, what 5 people would you choose? They can be fictional, dead, alive, anything. Wow, big question. Fictional, dead, alive, or alive. 5 people to talk to for 3 hours? Scheisse. Tyrion Lannister, Ricky Gervais, Christopher Hitchens, David Hasselhoff. No, I'm kidding. Really, this answer could go on forever. It's almost impossible to pick 5, and it's completely arbitrary. There are so many fascinating people that would be unbelievable to speak to. Gary Oldman. I'll have a conversation with him about his career in acting. That would be unbelievably gratifying. Natalie Portman. Talk to her about her thoughts about Israel. Fascinating. When you open up to the fictional, that makes it incredibly challenging to do. How about a conversation with Lee Harvey Oswald? I'd like to interrogate him for 3 hours. Let me go with Carl Sagan. Fun side story, my mother rented Carl Sagan's apartment in New York. Like, he was subletting his apartment, and she rented it. So, we could talk about that for 3 hours. Will Ferrell. Let me hang out with Will Ferrell for 3 hours, please. Kristen Wiig. It doesn't always have to be about how we're going to solve the world's problems. I mean, let's have a good time here, please. What are your top 5 books on any topic? Well, now you reach my sore spot, because I am not a reader. I literally don't know how to read. I'm dyslexic. No, I just don't read. I never got into the culture of reading. I read a lot in college. As a history major, you read a lot. I understand that people have really gratifying, amazing experiences reading books. I can never get into it. I'm a product of the television age and now the internet, and I am a visual person. I react better to visuals. I'd rather watch a 2-hour documentary than read a book. That's just who I am. I've had good experiences reading. It's just I cannot get into it. Right now I'm reading the Sam Harris's book, Waking Up, and I'm reading the biography from John Cleese, which is quite fun and rewarding. But I just find it lame. Like, I read a book, NPR suggested a book last year. It was Gone Girl. So I read Gone Girl, and I was totally unimpressed. It was worthless. I couldn't stand it. I thought it was so goddamn self-satisfied. It wasn't smart. It wasn't realistic. I didn't care. The characters were totally unbelievable. Then, to my shock and horror, Ben Affleck does the movie Gone Girl, and that's awful. Yeah, it's not good when you're reading the book and you think, fuck, I should drop everything and become a writer because I could do better than them at this. I don't think this is smart. I don't think this is well crafted. I was unimpressed. And, experiences like that just turn me off to stuff. And plus, who has time? Who has the time? It's not like I'm staring at a wall blankly in lieu of reading. I'm engaging myself online and soaking up content. It's just not in book form. Of course, I've read all the atheist books, but even those, I would rather hear the audiobook from the author's voice than to read it. So I know a lot of people are passionate about reading. I am not that guy. Is your family religious? No. Well, yeah. Big picture, yeah. Immediate family, no. Sister, irreligious. Stepsister, I've never heard her talk about religion. Father, atheist. Stepmother is the fly in the ointment. She is a whole host of things. New Age, crystals, reincarnation, Scientology, Christianity, spiritualism of every kind. I don't even know what else has been thrown on top of the pile. But you name it, she probably believes it. So, yeah. And then I have cousins in Africa, and they're religious. And not just Christianity, it's African tribal stuff. So, like, my cousin is like a witch doctor. He's actually studied the art of Zulu witch doctor-ing. I don't know what the hell. I have missionary cousins in Jamaica. I have Christian cousins in England. I have Christian cousins in New Zealand. The Tracy family comes from a long line of Christians. We have been in southwest England for 1,000 years. Before that, we were in France, like everybody in England was. De Tracy. We came over with William the Conqueror. Before that, it was the Romans. Tracius. We have a historian in the family who has traced all this stuff back. Traced. Huh. Yeah, so religion is everywhere. You can't get away from it. But I was raised in Los Angeles in a non-religious family. Didn't go to church. But it was the 80s in Los Angeles, so there was religion everywhere. I mean, I went to a Jewish preschool because it was the best preschool and the closest one to us. I went to a Christian elementary school, private school, where we'd go to church every Friday and have like a morning thing where we sang songs. And I guess they were religious songs, but it was all mild. There was nothing beaten over your head. But this was the deal that the church said, look, you can have a school here so long as you bring the people to chapel. But I was at this school with mostly Jews. There was mostly Jews in my class. And, people like Gwyneth Paltrow. So Gwyneth Paltrow went to this school with me, and she was a couple grades older, and I was in class with her brother, Jake Paltrow. This is in Santa Monica, California, which is where Sam Harris grew up. He grew up in a similar household where religion wasn't a thing. Who is your favorite atheist out of your lineup? I bet it's a white guy. Joking. That was from The Brilliant Atheist, and he is brilliant because that was a good joke. Let me look at my lineup. Who is my favorite? Interesting. Favorite atheist. Oh, they are all equally atheistic. So they are all equally my favorite in terms of that stance. As far as just personalities or their flavor or just which one of them tickle me the most, which one have I yielded the most endorphins off of, I would say it's between Sam Harris and Christopher Hitchens. I mean, Ricky Gervais has given me probably more endorphins overall because of his humor. But in terms of atheism, I have received more. Like, if I was a mouse that had to hit the button every time somebody said something I agreed with and like resonated with me, Christopher Hitchens and Sam Harris, I've hit the button more. On my iPhone, my screensaver is those two guys. So I'm going to have to say it's between them, and maybe Sam Harris gets the edge now because he's alive. Even though I discover old Hitchens stuff, and I will watch old Hitchens stuff all the time as like comfort watching. It's like the same way that an old cat lady watches, Sleepless in Seattle ad nauseum. I watch old videos of Christopher Hitchens debating somebody or giving a lecture. That is my